You're listening to a podcast called Gary, with me, Tom Mann.
And me, Adam Etheridge.
In this week's episode, we'll be talking holidays. Again, due to a few technical issues last week.
Can you hear me now?
I can. Can you hear me?
Good. I can't hear you. So, welcome to another episode of a podcast called Gary. I will get it right one week. Yes, and it's holiday episode part 2. Now, apologies for technical issues last week, and as my friend Tom was saying, it was a bit hard to hear, which in layman's terms is it sounded shit. So I just wanted to obviously apologise for the technical issues, and hopefully we will not have anything similar this week. So I can't quite remember exactly where we got to last week, Tom, but you know what? Where would you like to kick things off?
Well, it's good to see you first of all, mate. And last week,
thank you, Andy.
Well, we talked about a variety of things. We talked a little bit about caravans. Perhaps that's an area that we can cover again, because we will be having another, a night away in your caravan, you know, when we were sort of 16, harking back to those days in the near future. So that'll be a lot of fun. But the place where we finished, I think, was we talked about your mum and dad's place in Usk and how we used to go there in Wales during the summer. And we used to kind of see your grandparents and you know, camp out in your garden and that sort of thing. I think that's what we were talking about when we finished the last one.
That's right. And Reg and Gwen, the calf of Reg and Gwen. You know, yes, fond memories of those sort of times. But I'd like to obviously return the same sort of fond memories of coming to see you guys in Sheffield and getting to play on a full-size snooker table and things like the, you know, again, the very alien to me, and having that sort of living in a sort of big village city that I wasn't really aware of back then, which was called Sheffield. And you know, there's all the, and remember the multiple times of you know, the watching the films and all the pirated films that we used to watch on the Video 8 that your dad used to have a video camera. He was always very, very kind of forward with technology. I remember him having like the first sort of mobile phone, and it was like a car battery attached to a handset, and just he was very, very forward on technology. And I remember just the holidays like that where we'd come and see you, and I remember again we'd have like trips to Scarborough and Bridlington, and little things like that as well, where I was saying to Kirst, when we go up to the caravan, I always have the fond memories of the little routines that we used to have when we used to come and see you guys. And it always used to be, when we used to leave, we always used to find like a little chef, and we always used to have some sort of like a meal at a little chef. And I think your dad remembered having the Olympic breakfast, because we could have breakfast whatever time of day it was. But you know, some were less fond because, you know, there were times where we didn't want to leave each other after spending time with each other. So there were sort of moments where, you know, those were null bells to our departure from each other. But likewise, you know, there were still kind of moments where I remember driving past now either sort of car washes or derelict sites where there used to be some sort of little chef that we used to frequent, and I think the one in Sheffield now is a Domino's Pizza. But you know, there's lots of fond memories of things like that, and I think, as I say, there was so many different things that we both enjoyed from spending time with each other in that respects. And it's just to say, there's bringing back the floods of memories of little things that I remember, like the dog disappearing over the steps to the fields and things like that at your house just outside of Dromfield. We were
the worst dog owners ever. We were terrible dog owners. I'm going to tell my wife about how we tracked that dog, and she's just aghast, because she's from a family that she used to get up at 6 o'clock every morning and walk like her 2 or 3 dogs before school. We used to basically open the door and let ours out, and it would take itself for a walk. It was just, it really was, Paul. I can't believe we used to do that.
Your dad built some steps, didn't he? Though had some steps built to let the dog go over the sort of the wall into the fields above. But it was, I suppose, pretty preferable to the kind of the dog cacking in the house. I remember the story of slipping on the dog's doo doo in the billiard room and things like that. But yeah, I always remember those moments of coming, and one of the first things it would be like, let's play some snooker, and it would be how many games to nil before I'd win one, and things, those sort of memories of like I'd won one, and regardless of whether you just sort of been so wayward with the fact that I bullied you into playing like 50 games, and you managed to kind of just not keep concentrate for that one game where I managed to sneak a win. But I think there was like the all time the underdog beating the champ moments. But yeah, I have fond memories of things like that.
Yeah, that was great. You always used to arrive on the Friday evening, and I remember those marathon snooker sessions. We'd just play for hours while our parents talked and had a catch up and watch the telly or whatever. And again, looking back on those, it just kind of took it for granted at the time because I'd grown up with that. But think, oh God, if I had a full size snooker table now, it'd be unbelievable. Yeah, that's the dream. That's the dream. But no, it was great.
It'd be something you'd store stuff under. I mean, that was what it ended up being.
We did store a lot of stuff under there. To be fair, we did. It still actually, it still exists. It's still in my dad's work. He's passed away now, but it's in storage, just dismantled in bits. And his idea was always that hopefully one day I would have a place where I could get it back in working order. I'd love to. In fact, I do play a lot of snooker at the moment now. I go down to the snooker club with my son. And he enjoys it. And he actually wants a snooker cue for Christmas. So yeah, we very much enjoy doing that. And it's nice. It brings back those memories, is the ones that you were just describing.
Yeah, and that's it. I think I think the thing we've sort of had in common for quite a while is the love of film, and as we've said in other podcasts, and I think we've sort of had the access to things in different ways. I remember my mum and dad used to have videos in the shop, so there was always access to sort of the latest films and things like that on VHS.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
When you took them down.
So that's what I always think of, Siad, is you'd always seen the latest movies. So we'd hear, I remember your mum and your dad, even because they were really into the movies as well. So we used to go to cinema. We'd maybe go out for a meal or be eating or whatever, and they'd be telling my mum and dad about, oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that? You guys were always really up to speed with the latest films, especially, as you say, because you had the rental video business as part of the garage, didn't you, your parents?
Mm. And that's it. I think, my parents have always been the kind of like, oh, we're a bit short of something to do. Should we go to the cinema? And also we used to have a bit of a sort of family routine, a sort of tradition of going on Boxing Day. We'd go to either go to London to see a show, and if we couldn't manage to see a show, we'd probably go to the West End to see some sort of film or something like that. So it was always kind of like an epic kind of event on, and I mean, it got lessened as we got a bit old, I think. So the trek to London was a bit more of a kind of an early sort of thing. But yeah, the sort of the having those types of memories of just that joined us together of our love of film and things like that were, it expanded to when we were in the caravan, and the sort of the some of the videos that we were like the suspect sort of videos that were left in there for us to try and watch, and it's I think in terms of those sort of holidays, it was very much about kind of sharing the sort of the difference in where we were, but what what drew us together as friends in that way, is that we through the country life that I lived, very quiet country life, to your sort of more sort of city life. And I mean, again, Sheffield being really a big sort of village, in some respects you had a blend of kind of country and that city experience. But I was very much the sort of the city boy, sorry, the village boy, and it was nice to kind of have someone to go and just amble around with, and go to places where just, I suppose in some respects is walking through fields and things is boring to a lot of people, but it was something that, again, it was nice to kind of have someone to kind of just to spend time doing something that wasn't sort of with my parents at the time. And we had those sort of fond memories of going off and adventuring in some respects when you came down to see
Yes, very much so. I do remember the one where we went conker picking, I seem to remember, and it was quite a rainy, horrible day. But then didn't we get charged by some cows or a bull or something? I mean, we ran out of the field like, shit!
Yeah, we had. I think it was the horse. I think there was horses. It was lots of those sort of events where you'd be sort of walking around a field that was reasonably sort of vacant, and then all of a sudden you'd be sort of doing something, and then said animal would be just in a place where you wouldn't want them to be, either between you and where you wanted to go, or coming to be a bit more friendly than you would expect, or unfriendly. And there was quite a lot of those sort of moments where, or we'd have to like run down a bank or up a hill or something like that, which was like that, some sort of path that a rudimentary path that someone had made. And there's always sort of some sort of treachery that could happen where, if you didn't do it right, you could come, slip and hurt or fall into something, or, there was always that kind of element to those little sort of jaunts where, we were just allowed to kind of, they say, roam around and be free. And the beauty of that is now lost really on a lot of children. But likewise, when we used to come and see you, I do remember those times where it was like, wow, you go like when Crystal Peaks was the one thing at first. It wasn't even a Meadowhall then, and we'd go to Crystal Peaks and there was a big cinema and all these sort of things. And I remember being to like the kind of the 1, 2, 3 sort of canon sort of flea pity, not super, but really kind of low key kind of places. We enjoyed those kind of mate, the I've just completely forgotten, but just remembered Hanrahans.
Hanrahans. For anybody, and that's most people who are listening, never been to Hanrahans, it was a fabulous restaurant in the true 80s opulence that you just could not imagine. It was basically the food, you would call it kind of, would it Tex-Mex or something like that?
Yeah.
So you had, ultimate nachos was one of my favourites, but then you'd have like these incredibly audacious desserts like the kitchen sink and Rocky Road,
deep fried ice cream,
and
that was one of the things you used to like. Yeah, I used to deep fried ice cream. It was just stuff that it was just indulgence.
But it was kind of like, it wasn't a chain, was it? That was the point. It was like privately owned, and you'd go in and they'd have all this kind of. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it worked. It had these like Greek statues, down in the toilets down below. You'd have this kind of naked Greek boy pissing into the little pond, and as you went in, you'd have like cocktails or mocktails if you're a kid.
Things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, places to put all your coats and your umbrella. It was very civilized. Then they'd sit you down before you went to the meal. Obviously getting your table ready, and you just, what would you like? And I just remember as a kid having really nice mocktails. It was very ahead of its time. In fact, I think we've lost something because you don't have that so much with the restaurant, separate bar area as to dining area. It's all just homogenized. It's all just one area, isn't it?
It's very American. It's very American kind of thing. It's sort of like the I suppose like the TGI Friday type thing where you have that sort of holding pen area where it is a sort of a bar slash seating area, and you say you have your you use that time to sort of choose what you're going to have. But I always remember things like they used to have fans on the ceiling, like the ones that were kind of like move like this, as it's sort of before sort of air conditioning, and it was kind of very, very prevalent in all places. So yeah, there was just stuff like that would be like, oh my god, we can we go and see the guys, and then we can go to Hanrahan's, and then later on it used to be the Chinese we used to go to as well. Again, that's sort of towards later years, really. But that used to be that kind of tradition of going and having duck and plum sauce.
Oh, the Canton Orchard.
Canton
I looked
Orchard.
that up the other day, and it's unfortunately closed now because I really wanted to take my kids because they like the Chinese. But talking about meals, when you used to go to yours, you see, I always used to really enjoy arriving at yours on the Friday night because obviously you lived in this lovely little village, and you'd have basically a pub on the village square. There was a choice of two really that we tended to go to.
There's 11 pubs in Usk.
Really, 11 for it's a tiny place. 11 pubs,
right.
But
11 pubs.
Yeah, but I always remember, just really enjoying the meals there as well. Good, just a very welcoming. Yeah, Nag's Head, very welcoming atmosphere. I think it's probably still there. I don't know if it's probably different owners. I don't know, but it's very good.
I think the thing that's I suppose that the difference is like when I was a kid, we never really used the car to go anywhere other than going out to the towns. So whenever we were going to go somewhere, it was always just like we'd walk to. I think everything is really in walking distance. Really, I mean, it's no more than like 10, 15 minutes walk to sort of any sort of shop or establishment. And I think that's the beauty of that environment, that we would always kind of have that very kind of relaxed sort of vein of things. And I think that was you guys used to kind of have that sort of benefit from the fact that we just used to chill and just go somewhere. And that's what I mean, like when I spend time with you, that it was just nice to kind of do the things I kind of would probably do on a routine, but it wasn't routine for the fact that I had someone who was kind of like, I could go and do things and show things, and we go places, and it wasn't like we had many restrictions. So it was, we could just go like, well, we're going to go down that way and just see what's over there, and eventually we'd come back, and I say that it's not like one of those places where there's a huge amount going on. It's just there's loads of like things that you could just kind of explore, and you can like the old railway bridge and stuff like that. It's weird. It's like it's kind of it's that kind of it's I don't want to say it's magical, because that's not what I mean, but it has that kind of storybook, or like kind of the kind of element to it, where some people would go to and go like, and there's a castle, and it's like,
I was going to say, if you were going to set Stranger Things in the UK, that would be a great town where you came from, because it is the sort of place you can ride around on your bike, and there's lots of, even though it's a very small place, there's lots of different things that are of interest that would be quite good in a film or a story, actually. The other thing that came back to me when we were talking was, do you remember Murder in the Dark? We used to play that a bit, didn't we?
I'm not the murderer.
We used to play that a lot. I remember, whether it was your house or my house. But just thinking about Friday nights, not so much you and I when we used to see each other, but when I used to go to the caravan that we're talking about. We used to have a certain routine, and it was always so great. You get there on a Friday, and I just remember you'd settle in, then my dad would go and get the fish and chips, and then it'd be about 9 o'clock by the time we probably ate, and we'd put on Golden Girls. I want to say it was maybe Cheers followed by Golden Girls, or the other way round. And that music always reminds me of being away at the caravan for the weekend. Just very nostalgic and comforting as you're eating the fish and chips.
See, and that's the thing, because when you've got that that place where, same like the flat we used to go to as well, is that it's this sort of you get somewhere where it's enough home from home, but it's still different enough for it to be kind of that change of scene and that change of tact of what you're going to do. And I think that's goes back into the sort of the holidays that we were talking about before, where caravan holidays are sort of a bit more like when your power goes out in the house. And I said last week, where it just becomes more simplified. And even though you still got your creature comforts of television and radio and things like that, you would back then probably, you're lucky if you got a couple of channels. So you'd sort of be one of those where you'd be fighting to tune a channel in or something like that, or, or we'll just resort to a video or something. So then you go, right, what's in the stock of the videos? And oh my God, you'd be, lucky if you kind of had a turnover of the videos in the last sort of 5 years. So you're sort of looking at stuff that was either too, inappropriate, like we didn't want to watch it, or it was stuff that was, it was sort of, gosh, I haven't seen this in a while, but let's watch this. And it might be like, I don't know, The Burbs or something random, just to pick a film, just like, it's not something you'd watch regularly, but you think, oh hell, we'll just watch this. And that was kind of how I remember those sort of holidays. There's sort of the by candlelight type elements where you just think, right, we're going to play Monopoly, and as we did many times, we're going to have a couple of card games of Uno, and I just remember like the say like a bit like the snooker, the endless, relentless games of Monopoly, where strategically you'd been so kind of well bred by your father to know what pieces to take and how much to screw the bolts into anyone that landed on these key pieces, and to the point where you would even do like the side hustles of the I'll lend you that, or I'll take that off you, and you say you were so well taught by a superior player like your dad that I just had no chance. I do remember, like, I think he would go on. Sorry, I cut you.
I was just going to say, and then I met my wife, and then I really knew what a good player was. She just absolutely screws you. She's so relentless because she won't settle for anything but the really good properties. She just won't buy anything unless it's, the greens or the blues, pretty much. Yeah.
See, I was going to say that the flip side of that, I remember that your mum and dad, when they used to come to ours, it always used to be about Trivial Pursuit.
Yes, Trivial Pursuit.
And the hours they used to spend playing Trivial Pursuit, and we used to kind of like dip in and out, sort of come in and be like, what's going on? And, occasionally there'd be a question where we might be able to answer. And I just remember my dad always used to play with your mum. And my mum used to play with your dad, partner with your dad. And it always used to come down to that question. And it used to be your mum and my dad going, no, you'll get that one. No. And or likewise, either your dad and my mum going, no. Okay, your dad going, pick that one.
Yeah.
Pick that one. And then he'd ask my dad, and my dad would just bang, pull it out of the air somewhere. And your dad would be like, what the fuck? How did you manage that? And, so the smuggery of those moments on both parts where it's going to skip that generation pass down the generation where, we have those moments the same where, somehow I've managed to kind of like, win that game, or, those sort of things where, it's just those same moments of, it's like that's never going to happen, or we do something and, play a game where, usually one of us would be the sort of the usual victor, and then somehow the other person would just, yes, I got this one this time, motherfucker.
You see, those games are just a great focus for a weekend or so. When you have guests over or you visit, and they do provide a great source of. It's like an intense but friendly competition, isn't it? And everyone gets drawn in, and suddenly this game just matters so much. And as you say, you get down to those last questions, and it's all to play for. And I do remember specifically playing Trivial Pursuit in Portugal one time. More than anything, that sticks out. And as you say, I got one question right, and it was like, yes, it was just like, because you never did when you were a kid, because obviously you just didn't have the breadth of knowledge that your parents do.
Exactly.
But talking about Portugal, do I remember right? You used to refer to Villa Hellhole. Have I remembered that right?
So yeah, Villa Hellhole was that holiday we were mentioning where my grandmother, Margot, was like, we had the power off for 2 days because due to a storm, and she'd pulled out this light strip thing for us all to play cards by, and it was coined Villa Hellhole before that, in a term of because of, again, I mentioned this last week about TV or no TV, and the fact that we walked in as children and went, "Where's the television?" And my dad was like, "There isn't a television." And we were like, "Oh my God." It was there's that crushing moment where it was like, there's no fucking television. And it was, that was the whole point where it really, in a way, the whole storm part kind of helped us solidify those moments of actually coming together, and like much like we're saying, like in the caravan, moments of you spend time together, you do things together, and you kind of forced to converse and socialize with even though you're on holiday. There's moments where we didn't have games and the gaming machines back then. I didn't really didn't have like a Game Boy or anything. But I think there was this sort of point where we were, as a family, were quite sort of I suppose TV heavy in the way that I think a lot of children and a lot of families were in the 80s, early 90s. So yeah, it was this one of those points where it was like this place is hellhole, and and it had mosquitoes. That's the first time I think I had experienced mosquitoes, and I just remember just hearing that. Like, she can't do this. And it was just like, I remember laying there with the bloody duvet over my head, and it was boiling hot, and I could just hear this freaking thing, but like, and when it goes quiet, you think is it drinking my blood, is it biting me, and that was it. I remember like getting so frustrated. I was like, and like running out of the bedroom and just kind of like completely just exploded with kind of just rage because this stupid little thing was flying around trying to drink our blood, and specifically mine at the time. So yeah, there was moments like that ticked all the kind of the boxes. Oh, and we didn't have a car. That was the other reason why we ended up staying in the bloody place. Yeah, so they had the car, but it was delivered, but they didn't tell us where the keys were. So we had to go. We had to walk. Oh my God, we had to walk. Even though, as I said just before, that we were a town where we walked a lot. It was that moment where we were like, oh my God, we got to go somewhere, and we had to walk to the car hire and find out where the the keys were, and they'd actually been hidden like on the tire or something. And even though Dad had claimed he looked, he couldn't find them. So yeah, it was just all these elements to this holiday where we're kind of trapped in this hole of hell where there's no television and mosquitoes and all sorts of things like that. It was well titled, I think, as a place. As an older person, I would have been like, might be maybe a few more expletives on the end of the, hell. But yeah, it was a shit holiday.
It just sounds like lots of bad things came together that holiday to really stump you all. But what I'd like to know is, what would you say your favourite holiday was as a kid growing up? Either a specific holiday or a place that you went to more than once that you just loved to go to.
Well, I think the proof is in some of the pictures on the intro. I think the America trip that I've managed to enjoy, been very, very lucky to enjoy, a number of times in different stages of my life. And one of the key ones was when we went all as a big group, your family and my family, and we just had one of those strangest sort of, again, you'll have to tell it from your perspective, but when we went all together, it was the first time we'd stayed outside of something that I knew. My mum had rented this house, basically, like back before the Airbnb type days. She'd found this house for rent on this street, and it must have been just after Christmas or something. I can't remember, because it was definitely, there was Christmas things still left out, or maybe just before Christmas. I can't remember when we went, but it was. I remember there being, unless we went. Have we been twice together? Maybe we went twice together.
Twice. Are you talking about the one in like 1992? Because we went.
So that's the late.
We went, in fact, yeah, definitely twice. We went 1992, and I think that may be the one you're talking about. And that was in Easter, but I vaguely do remember there being Christmas decorations around. And because I remember, eating lots of Easter eggs. And then the second time we went was 96, and that was around Christmas. That was
so that's the one I'm thinking. Yeah, so that's right. So that the one I'm thinking specifically then was that when we went and stayed at that house, because the other time we went and there was lots of thunderstorms, and I remember we were in Universal, and we got caught in that thunderstorm, and poor buggy dropped your dad's camera, and it was just one of those sort of those points where it was just like, just those sort of things stick out, as well as some of the really good times we had. There was just like moments where you could, the rage that your dad sometimes could have, and it was just, there was. I'm not saying that tainted the holiday, but there are those moments where the fact those elements of families throw through,
yes, because when you're spending that much time together, there are bound to be the mask kind of not that it is a mask, but every day just frustrations are going to happen, aren't they? If you give it long enough and you're spending that amount of time in each other's company. But yeah, I still look back on that, although that memory sort of sticks out. It makes me smile, really. I just think it's quite funny, because I can imagine me being in my dad's shoes, having a really nice camera, and then it getting dropped. I would be pretty narked by that as well.
Yeah.
But of course, that holiday, that was when Universal Studios and MGM was first introduced to me. I had been to America before that one, I think in 1987, but I don't think that MGM and Universal existed at that point, or they're only we certainly didn't visit them. They're probably in development. And so in 92, that holiday when I dropped the camera, I just remember the Back to the Future ride at Universal and how amazing that was.
Exactly. And I think that's that holiday is the photograph of me and there's the big fat lesbo. No, we must have been.
That's 96. That one.
Yeah. That's 96. So when we went that first time, I think we stayed at where Mum and Dad had their timeshare, which I think was Westgate Lakes, or Westgate. It was one of those sort of big chain things.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And I remember your dad, I think it was your dad, was either sleeping. No, we we were sleeping on like a mezzanine. I think there was like a massive mezzanine thing. And I think we were all kind of camped up there, or at least most of us were. And again, it was those moments where we could hear your dad snoring, and because his dad was a big snorer, especially when we used to come and stay. It was just like, oh my god, what's that noise? You're like, yeah, it's just my dad, so that. And then and that's I just remember now when we used to come and stay. We used to go and stay in your loft sometimes, the converted loft. But yeah, there was moments like that that I just remember those. With that one and the other holiday where your dad was kind of, I think, sleeping in an area where I think he was the sort of the outsidey bit, and we just sort of have those moments where we'd like go and sneak some like cookies or something from the fridge, and then your dad would just like stop snoring and we'd be like frozen, and then all of a sudden he'd like kick in and like clearly have some sort of apnea moment where he'd just like and like just like, oh, we're good. But and that was the same holiday in the second one in '96 where your dad from the first time it experienced shade something. It was basically an all-you-could-eat Oriental buffet.
Oh yes,
it was Jade something.
Oh, that was
the first time we went.
Yeah, first time we experienced the all-you-can-eat buffet. Oh, incredible!
But then the second visit is when your dad took us back, and I think we just went with him. And it was when I remember your dad hiring a car and letting your brother drive as well. But we went all like lads. Went, and we went to the Oriental buffet, and your dad said to me, he went, it was like, I don't know, $5 all you can eat. And so your dad was like, me and your dad both being big fat fuckers. And he was just like, on a loser here, lad, aren't they? And they're just like, they're just like little moments like that where your dad was just like, just so cheeky, but, bang on at the same time.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. Little lines like that. That was very much my dad. Yeah, but I mean, bloody hell, they were though, because all of us could eat, couldn't we? We really were going to rinse them as much as we possibly could. And it was just such a eye opener. Oh my God, all you can eat Chinese. This is just I've died and gone to heaven here. Yeah. And of course now you have Tay Barn. I still haven't been there. Is that still going?
No, Tay Barn I think is a sort of, unfortunately, one of those sort of places where it just, I think if it had been sort of closer to the city, I think maybe they would have been a bit more successful. But I think the idea of the sort of the buffet that we kind of experienced back then, I still don't think that the UK has ever kind of really gone anywhere close to some of
not on that scale. Not on that scale, because
no.
it was just a massive building. I remember, there was just so much food to be had, so much choice.
But yeah, I think the American theme, or the theme of us going to America together, has been sort of those sort of moments of the real key parts of my my holiday life. And again, we've gone together, and with the lads when we were a bit older, and there were again there's so many good memories and a couple of like squiffy moments, like as you always have on a holiday. But at the same time, I think we all come out of it at the other end. We're all kind of we're unscathed, and
largely
mentally or physically. Largely,
still got that Spider-Man suit somewhere, I think.
Well,
but
if anyone,
sorry, carry on.
If anyone's got pictures, like I did reach out to a couple of the lads to say if you've got pictures. I mean, we.
Oh, I've definitely got one picture. Yeah,
you definitely.
Yeah. The thing is, no, two actually. Yeah, I'll have to send you a couple of them. But on the Spider-Man, on the movie theme, the other good thing about America was that obviously their films, because they tend to make the things, come out there first. So I do remember seeing a few really good films in America. So in '92 we saw Wayne's World at the cinema before it came out in the UK, and that was so exciting. Came back in like, oh, we've seen Wayne's World, you've got to see it, so amazing. And then the other one was Scream, wasn't it? When, the second time we went together.
Yeah, we were in a bit late as well. I walked in just as it was that, the walking into the telephone was ringing. So I think we'd literally missed the trailers, and we were kind of walking in on when it was just gone dark. But I do remember that sort of the thing that going back to the sort of the UCI at Crystal Peaks sort of embodied was this very similar kind of mentality to the American experience you get at the cinemas there. And that was the other thing, is that, he got the buckets of popcorn with butter and, things like that, which were just, the mammoth kind of buckets of popcorn and stuff like that we just didn't usually get in cinemas in the UK. And the size of the screens and things. So yeah, those are the things that kind of sprung out about those holidays. There's the actual, the things you just couldn't experience in the UK. And so when you did go there, it was like magical in a way. Even the Disney stuff, yeah, it is when you go, but the sort of the grand scale of the things that are there and the availability of things, just driving down the road and it's like, oh, there's a Wet and Wild or something, or some lesser kind of water park or something, and you could just be like, we can go there, and it's like, that's probably like the shit one. But at the same time, with that sort of analogy where you just drive down a bit and then it's like, oh, there's a massive whatever, a shopping mall or whatever, and then you go in there and you're like, Nike and all sorts of
whole fucking supermarket outlets dedicated to Nike products.
Yeah, it's just like unknown. Just warehouse sized shop of one particular thing, and that was just like, just can't get this in the UK. So there was a lot of that kind of sort of awe-struck or awesome type of experience of being somewhere that was just immense and just massive, so and then say to come back from those sort of holidays and then realize how much I wanted to go back straight away. Like, can we go to America again? Like, no.
It's interesting what you say there though about so many amazing things being concentrated in just a small space, so you just had like, say, something like Wet and Wild would be like the equivalent of a B movie in terms of like the overall entertainment, whereas Universal Studios would be the blockbuster. But I mean, even Wet and Wild is incredible experience compared to your average everyday what you can access at home. And it's almost a bit like, you mentioned London earlier on, and it's a bit like that, isn't it? Where you just go to the West End and then you've just got all these shows all in one place. It's a similar thing, It's that I did not know that you did that tradition, by the way, that you went to the West End on a Boxing Day. That's a really cool thing to have done. Really cool.
Yeah, it's one of those weird kind of things that it was either sort of. It was always like a Boxing Day trip to something, whether it be, to the cinema to go and see the thing that we've been waiting to go and see, or we'd go and see a show of something. It's always that kind of, we'd always do something on a Boxing Day. As I think got a lot less and less as we got older, because I think probably there was resistance from both my sister and me to actually be asked to do something. So I think maybe my parents' enthusiasm would wane about actually kind of making it as a big journey to London. But yeah, there was always that kind of it's that thing that we used to do. And I think going back to the holiday things, and going back to sort of other sort of traditions, as I say, from so going to places, and I think, you know, having your, like, if your family traditions of when you go places, like when we used to go to Portugal, we always used to have chicken piri piri. We'd always have to go to some the Retiros de Indios, which was a place that was like a weird kind of like Indian, like a Native American cowboy themed place with no other theme. You know, the food was not, you know, American or anything. It was just this person who ran it had an enthusiasm and penchant for the cowboys and Indians. And so we'd have like Wild West doors going into this place, and you know, all sorts of like, you know, statues and things of Red Indians and stuff like that. But you would go there for certain foods and things like that. Like I used to like these things called sole fillets, and I think it would just be one of those weird things where we just always used to go there. And you know, similarly, like you're saying with your fish and chips and the Inghams. When we used to go to Ingham's, when we used to go to Filey, you know, those are the things. I'm not saying like the little chefs, and it's those little things that you kind of then you still take on. I mean, I still do it with my family. So when we've been to Filey, it's Ingham's fish and chips is kind of always one of those where if I don't get it, it's kind of like being cheated a little bit, you know. And I think, you know, that there's that element from our childhood where, you know, our parents have, you know, pushed that down the line because it was just seen as a kind of a staple part of the holiday, you know.
We were very lucky when you think about all the things that we did and all these amazing holidays to have done all that. You know, and I think sometimes it's not that I take it for granted. It's just that I don't quite realise how lucky I was. So when I'm talking to Jacks and things, you know, they just didn't do quite things in quite the same way. They just, you know, I don't know. It's just, I'm just talking, and I think if I didn't know me, I'd think, bloody hell, you two are very lucky people, aren't you? And we are, you know. But it's only really when you talk through it, you're like, wow. You know, we have lucked out in terms of holidays and the way our families came together and things like that.
And then this was it, because I think we as groups, as we got older, as a sort of I want to call it like the Man and Etheridge, you know, conglomerate really, and we tried in a way, because we didn't see each other hugely often, is when we did get together, we tried to do something a bit epic. And, you know, I remember if it wasn't going to the coast, it was like going to I was mentioning to you before, we went to Centre Parks. And Centre Parks was quite new, it was quite in its infancy that then, and there was only one, and, you know, relatively close to you in respects. And it was kind of one of those moments where it was just, again, a whole sort of world of its own. And I just remember that. I remember, well, I was saying to you last week off air, where I remember that moment of your brother ditching us when we come back from swimming.
It was pouring with rain, if I remember as well.
Well, it wasn't at first, and I think that was the thing, is that we'd been swimming, we'd been to this place for people who don't know what it is and have not been there. It's a sort of a big village in the middle of the forest, in Sherwood Forest, in this particular one, and it had this indoor swimming, it had outdoor activities, it had loads of things for sort of families to do or individuals to do. So we, in this particular instance, we went swimming, and I do remember there was a part where there's like the rapids. I remember the rapids quite fondly, but I remember there was a part where it went into this little cave bit. and then there was all these kind of like young lads and lasses kind of like necking in there, and then the sort of just like stuff going on in there that was like, and then because your brother was kind of at that age where he was sort of you know interested in girls and having girlfriends and all that sort of thing, and and we were kind of like maybe a little bit younger, but I remember coming back from there with you and him, and it was whether you had an altercation with him or we kind of just pissed him off in some way where he just ditched us, and we got turned around. And in this place, it's like there's like certain routes you can take that take you sort of directly to chunks of the estate. So where like a certain area where you might be living in. And we got completely turned around, and we were just like, we got no idea we knew what number we were living in. And we just thought, right, well, we'll just walk the road. And then it started to rain, and really rain. And to the point where I remember you just putting your towel over your head and walking. We just I think, and we got lost. So we ended up like at some weird part of the park, which hadn't been developed yet. And despair set in, and we eventually got our way back to the apartment or the villa, whatever it was called, or the lodge, just to be told, "Oh, well done, kids, you're back. Get ready, we're going out soon." And we're like, "What?" And,
what?
Yeah. And I remember that holiday, mini Kievs.
Mini Kievs. Oh gosh, can you still get mini Kievs?
I think so. You could probably get them in places like Asda and stuff, but it's not something that you get regularly. But what are your memories of things like Centre Parks and things?
Again, it's ridiculous to say this, but I remember it had Sky. It had Sky TV, where it was still quite new the first time I went to Centre Parks, and so it was. I mean, it's crap in a way because they had about 3 movies that they just play on a cycle all day long, but it just seemed so incredible because it wasn't, one of the 4 channels that we're used to 4 at that time. Of course, it's 5 now, isn't it, on terrestrial? But yeah, there was that, and yeah, that's a very strong memory walking through the rain with my brother. Again, a lot of our family interactions on holiday centre around meals. And funnily enough, how I was saying earlier on about your mum and your dad recommending films to my parents, I just remember them having that kind of a conversation at one of the restaurants that we went to. And I do remember, I believe, having surf and turf for the first time at that restaurant as well. Bowling, Tenpin bowling, you can do that at Centre Park. I seem to remember that as well. And again, that's something that we used to do as 2 families, or not necessarily as families, but it would be something that sometimes as we got older, we would be dropped off at bowling, and then the adults would do whatever, just chill at home or something, and we'd be entertained there. So yeah, Tenpin bowling, again, I always think of you when I think of bowling.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember, because again, I remember those moments where the few times my dad would actually go bowling was when we were with you guys, and I think it's one of those sort of activities that was sort of quite prevalent, that came over from America, from to in the way that it was presented to the UK in that kind of like mega bowl type things. And I remember going to the bowling alley in Hillsborough when we were little, and my dad sort of it was something he never really did, and then he kind of sort of come out and try and like be sort of like, oh, I'm not bothered about winning, and then just like just that you could tell there was an element of like, oh, I'm actually going to get a decent score here, and then they would come down to like the dads trying to kind of style it out in the end there. On your brother as well. Your brother was really keen at one point. It was just ridiculous, and when your brother started like doing it properly and just sort of showing the olds up. It was just that moment where your dad started like, or you would come in with the usual. Again, the same with the snooker would be the little comment just to kind of like eat away. Just the little sly comment about, don't miss this one, or, that sort of, you really want to, you just got to get this in. You have you'd be on a perfect score or something. And, just that kind of, undoubtedly something would cause, would be caused by that, some sort of blip in the blip in the kind of the groove that your brother would have at the time. And, it's like for me, as it was like get sort of by the fifth go, my hand would be hurting so much anyway. I would be launching them whatever direction I could be at that time. And yeah, it was one of those where you did the mind games that your dad used to be able to sort of lay out to just get that edge back, where maybe a young stallion at the time was coming into form, and the old stud was trying to keep a slight hoof on the throat of this young buck.
I love the way you took that metaphor. Then that's brilliant. I was like, can you keep this going? Yeah, he's going for this. Yes. And similarly, the mind games were played in snooker when we used to play doubles as well. You and me versus the dads, and
exactly.
There'd be my dad would just be like saying, "Oh, stick him in the long grass, there, Richard," and then like he'd probably say something like, "Well, you can't miss this one, can you?"
Yeah,
stuff like that. Just that sort of like you'd be a real fool to miss this one.
And it's like I'm reminded of our friend Peter, who always does that. Oh, this is on, and that comment. There's just that moment of like, oh, double, overthinking the moment, and especially where you were with the snooker and the pool, where you'd kind of really took on some form, and I think you did some lessons where you'd kind of, you'd really kind of, perfected your stance and your technique, and was really, really kind of at a point where it was like, I didn't even need to be there. It was just like, I was just there for support, really, more than anything. And, they said those are the times your dad had to get those little comments. And again, my dad was funny because if he was told to do something like, stick him in the long grass, and then would fail to comply, it'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake, Richard, or something. There'd be the moment like, they don't need any help winning, Richard, or something. And so there would be those moments where, the banter between the two of them. And I imagine that the many hours they played golf together, where they had this jockeying of handicap and playing good or not playing well, and and they say like my dad had those moments where it's like, oh, I need a lesson, I'm playing so bad, I need to go back to have a lesson and get everything. And then he'd be saying that to your dad, and then he'd go out and play like a wizard, and he's like, you're just a fucking shark, aren't you, Richard?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Then there's it, and the way your dad would have those moments of just being like, the world, the bad luck is just there for me, prevalently today. And every opportunity for bad luck to come and kick me in the nuts is kind of has been present on this game of golf or whatever.
Traditional man bad luck, as you would call it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, mate, I think that's been absolutely lovely talking about the old holidays. And, we'll have to, think on about our own holidays moving forward and do that caravan trip and bring back some of the old memories.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Let's get it down in the diary. I said last time we need to do that, and let my foot off the gas a bit, but we do need to get that tied up. Let's make some more memories.
And in the meantime, I'll bid you adieu. Good night.
Take care.